أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Lesson number 122, Surah Yusuf, ayah number 1 to 18. Surah Yusuf is a Makki surah and it has 111 verses. This surah, it was revealed in Amul Huzn. What is Amul Huzn? The year of grief. What does it mean by that? The year of grief was the 10th year of prophethood, in which the Prophet ﷺ suffered from two big losses. Two very, very big losses. And what were those losses? That first of all, the death of his uncle, Abu Talib. And it was a loss. Why? Because, first of all, he was a source of great support for the Prophet ﷺ. And he had been his guardian, his mentor, his guide, from the very beginning. If you look at it, the Prophet ﷺ was with him. He was his guardian when he was young. He took the place of his father in a way. He trained him, he got him married, and then he supported him when the Prophet ﷺ received prophethood. But it was also very sad for the Prophet ﷺ because he had died as a mushrik. He had not become Muslim. That was extremely sad for the Prophet ﷺ. And secondly, the other great loss that he suffered in this year was the death of his beloved wife, Ummul Mu'mineen Khadija radhiyallahu anha. And that was also a great loss for him because she was not just a wife, but also a companion, a friend, a source of great comfort. And she had gone through him with all of those difficulties, supporting him, being his aid, being his comfort. And for him to lose both his uncle and wife was a great loss. This is why the 10th year of prophethood is known as Amul Huzn. And remember that Abu Talib, it is said that he passed away 6 months after coming out of the confinement at Shirb Abi Talib. Remember the boycott in which all of the Muslims, especially the clan of Abu Talib, they were driven out of Makkah and they had to take refuge in a gorge. And 6 months after that, Abu Talib passed away. And it is said that 3 days after, Khadija radhiyallahu anha passed away. And according to others, after a few months, Khadija radhiyallahu anha also passed away. And both of them were great supporters for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, their death was a great personal loss for him, because he was very, very attached to them. And the mushrikeen would not harm him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of these two people. Because Abu Talib, he was a leader. He was a chief. He was someone very noble. And at the same time, Khadija radhiyallahu anha also was very noble. So because of these two, the mushrikeen, they would not persecute the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as much. But after their death, what happened? The mushrikeen, they openly declared their campaign of torture against him. Which is why the Prophet ﷺ left Makkah and he went where? To At-Ta'if. To find out if he could find some protection over there. But even over there, he was unwelcomed. He was rejected. And he had to suffer a lot. So the entire atmosphere, you can imagine, became very depressive. Very sad. He would not find any support from anywhere. He was emotionally distressed because of the loss that he had suffered. And at the same time, externally, he was facing a lot of persecution and rejection. So at this time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah Yusuf. Because Yusuf alayhi salam also, his life was what? He suffered a great personal loss when he was removed away from his father. And at the same time, he was being persecuted by who? His own brothers. They're the ones who drove him away. They're the ones who threw him into the well. They're the ones who wanted evil for him. And the Prophet ﷺ as well was suffering torture at the hands of who? His very own tribesmen. His very own people who lived in Makkah with him. His neighbor, his uncle. They're the ones who were persecuting him. So in this surah is a great comfort for the Prophet ﷺ, and at the same time, a great lesson For who? For the mushrikeen of Makkah as well. There are two reasons that are mentioned behind the revelation of the surah. First of all, it is said that the mushrikeen of Makkah, they went to Medina and they asked the Yahud some questions. The Prophet ﷺ had not yet migrated to Medina. But remember, the people of the book, they were considered as the people of knowledge. They were very well respected. So the mushrikeen, they went to them and asked them that tell us something that is in your book and it is completely unknown to the Arabs. Tell us about something which is known only to you, it's not known to the Arabs at all. That Muhammad ﷺ does not have any idea about it, he cannot find out about it from anywhere. And we're going to go ask him about that, and then we're going to know whether or not he's really a prophet. Because he cannot find out from a friend, from other traditions, from other people, he cannot find out. If he's really a prophet, then he would find out from revelation about that particular incident. So the Yahud, they said to the mushrikeen that ask him about the story of Yusuf and his brothers. Ask him about what? The story of Yusuf and his brothers. If he tells you, then he is a prophet. And if he does not tell you, then that means he's not a prophet. So the mushrikeen, they went and asked the Prophet ﷺ about Yusuf ﷺ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the entire surah, the entire story in its entirety. Because generally what do we see? That, for example, a part of the story of Nuh ﷺ we learned in Surah Al-A'raf. Another part of it we learned recently in Surah Hud. And elsewhere in the Quran as well, Surah Nuh, we learn another part of it. But the story of Yusuf ﷺ is revealed completely in its entirety in this surah. Why? Because the mushrikeen, they demanded. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed to them that yes, Muhammad ﷺ is really a prophet. Secondly, it is also said that in the Amul Huzn, the distress increased for the Prophet ﷺ, the persecution, it increased for the Prophet ﷺ. And at the same time, it also increased for the Sahaba. It also increased for the Sahaba. The Mushrikeen, they increased in their persecution against the Muslims. So the Sahaba, because they were facing so many hardships, so many difficulties, they went to the Prophet ﷺ and said that why don't you tell us a story of the people of the past? Just like if you're going through a very difficult situation, what do you want to know? Something that's going to relax you. Something that's going to please you. Something that's going to take your mind off of what you're going through. So they went to the Prophet ﷺ asking him that tell us about a story of the people of the past. But isn't it amazing? They asked about something that was true. Something that could benefit them. Something that could be relevant to them. What do we do generally? If we're getting bored, if we're very tired, we generally switch the TV on. Or we go and watch a movie. Or we go to the mall. And sometimes it is a complete waste of time. Things that are irrelevant to us. Things that are only going to increase in our sin. But look at the Sahaba, they go to the Prophet ﷺ and they ask him a story of the people of the past. So that we can learn something from it. So that we can benefit from it. So, this is the reason as to why this surah was revealed. And this surah, Surah Yusuf, is a very unique surah in the Quran. And it's unique in many different ways. First of all, it is very unique because, as I mentioned to you, that the story of Yusuf ﷺ is mentioned in its entirety. We learned about Surah Hud. We also learned about Surah Yunus. Surah Yunus is named after Prophet Yunus alayhi salam. Similarly, Surah Hud is named after Prophet Hud alayhi salam. But we learned that in both of these surahs, it wasn't just the story of these two prophets that were mentioned. However, this surah is dedicated to the story of Yusuf alayhi salam only. Only his story. Secondly, it's also unique because this is the only time that the story of Yusuf alayhi salam is mentioned in the Quran. It's not mentioned anywhere else. And it's also very eloquent in its words, So, inshallah, we'll be learning about many new words in this surah. Many new words. Which, in one way, is very good because it opens up your mind. It increases your vocabulary. You understand at another level, in a much better way. But when it comes to tests, then it becomes a bit challenging. But look at it in the sense that enjoy the words, enjoy the sentences, enjoy the story. You're going a level higher, inshallah. Especially after the first term. Who was Yusuf alayhi salam? Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu, he narrated that the Sahaba, they once asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, Ya Rasulullah, man akramun nas? Who is the most noble amongst the people? Who is the most respectable amongst the people? So the Prophet ﷺ replied, Atqahum, meaning the one who is the most God-fearing amongst them. A person who is most fearful of Allah is the one who is most noble. As we learn that inna akramakum inna Allahi atqakum. The most noble amongst you is the one who is more fearing of Allah. So the Sahaba, they said, this is not what we meant. We mean who is the most noble amongst people in another sense. So the Prophet ﷺ said, okay, then the most noble amongst people is Yusuf alayhi salam. Because he is Nabiyullah, Ibn Nabiyullah, Ibn Khalilullah. He is a prophet, son of a prophet of Allah, son of a prophet of Allah, and son of who? The friend of Allah. Because Yusuf alayhi salam was a son of Yaqub alayhi salam, who was a prophet. Yaqub alayhi salam was a son of Ishaq alayhi salam, who was also a prophet. And Ishaq alayhi salam was a son of Ibrahim alayhi salam, who was the friend of Allah, Khalilullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alif, Lam, Ra. Huruf muqatta'at. Tilka ayatul kitab. These are the verses of the book. Which book? What's the characteristic of this book? It is al-mubin. It is clear. The surah begins with Alif, Lam, Ra. And these huruf, as we know, they are huruf muqatta'at. And what do they show? The miraculous nature of the Qur'an. That these huruf, you use them every single day. You hear them. You use them to form words. You use them to form sentences, to speak, to express yourself, to express your ideas. But can you produce something like the Qur'an? No, you cannot. Alif, Lam, Ra. Tilka ayat. These are verses. Tilka is actually singular, feminine. But singular feminine is being used to point out to ayat. Why? Because ayat is Jamr mukassar. Which is why when we translate it, we will not say these are verses. How will we translate it? These are verses. However, you know that tilka itself is singular. So these are verses, and tilka is ism ishara, ba'id. It is used to point to that which is far. So these verses, meaning the verses that are revealed here, the verses of this surah, the verses of the Qur'an, these verses, and look, tilka, that are far, why are they far? Why is ism ishara ba'id being used? To show the great status of these ayat. As you know that ism ishara ba'id is used for different reasons. And one of them is to show, to demonstrate the high status of something. To honor it. So these are verses of the book, meaning of the Qur'an, that is al-mubin, that is clear. The word mubin is from the root letters ba, ya, nun. And bain or bayan gives us several meanings. First of all, it gives a meaning of distance. As you know that baina, between, same root ba, ya, nun, that which is in between creates distance. Similarly, it is used for bu'd. What does that mean? When something is far. It's different from distance. Distance is however far or close, however short or long. But bu'd in particular is when something is very far. And thirdly, Bayn also gives the meaning of that which is wadih, that which is clear, that which is evident. Now if you combine all of these meanings, distance, when something is far, and when something is clear, if you look at it, what is clear? How do you look at something clearly? Or when does it become clear to you? When it is separate from others. When there is a distance between it and others. Then it becomes clear. When it becomes distinct and separate from the other, and between which and the other is a distance. It is far in resemblance from the other. This is what bayan is. When something is clear, it is distinct, it does not get mixed with the other, it can be seen separately, it is unique in itself. From the same root, bayanun is the word bayyin. And bayyin is used for speech. What kind of speech? That is very fasih, meaning very clear. It's very clear, it's very detailed, and it's also based on some evidence. So fasih speech is that in which there is clarity, there is detail, and it's also based on some evidence. From the same root is the word bayyina. And what does bayyina mean? A clear evidence. So what does mubin mean then? Mubin is understood in several ways. First of all, it is understood as that which is clear in itself. What does mubin mean? That which is clear in itself. It is evident, it is manifest, there is no confusion about it. You open it up, you see it, you can understand it. It's not confusing, it's not a riddle, it's not a puzzle. Simple, plain, easy to understand, clear. Secondly, mubin is also that which clarifies the other. What does it mean? That which clarifies the other. It helps you understand other things. How is it different from the first meaning? The first is that it is clear in itself. Secondly, it helps clarify others. It helps you understand other things. And thirdly, mubin is also understood as that which is based on some evidence. It is supported by some evidence, by some dalil, by some hujjah, by some bayyina. So the Quran, Al-Kitab, is described as Al-Mubin. It is clear. How is the Quran clear? Let's keep all of these three meanings in mind of the word Mubin. That first of all, it is clear in that everything that is stated in this book is in detail. It is free from confusion. It is understandable. It is distinct. Everything that is mentioned in this book is distinct. It is not confusing. It's clear. It's evident in itself. And how is it evident? Because it is in the Arabic language. Because of the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has arranged the Quran. The surahs, the ayat, the words, the structures, etc. And also it is clear because this Quran is whose speech? It's the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not based on human thought, on human imagination, on human discovery, but it is the speech of Allah. And Allah, He is alimul ghaybi wa shahada. He is the one who knows about everything and nothing at all is hidden from Him. So He has clarified the Quran. He has made it clear. And if it was the speech of any other person, any other creature, any other being, then the Quran would not be clear. As we learn in the Quran, that have they not reflected upon the Quran, and if it was from someone other than Allah, they would have found in the Quran many ikhtilaf, many contradictions. Isn't it so? But the fact that the Quran is from Allah, what does it mean? It is clear in itself. Because this is based on the knowledge of Allah. So how is it clear? Because first of all, it is in the Arabic language, and secondly, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the question is, what is clear in this Quran? If you look at it, the halal is made clear from that which is haram. What is right is made clear from that which is wrong. Secondly, Al-Kitab al-Mubin, what does it mean? That which clarifies. So this Qur'an, it clarifies. What does it mean by this? If you look at it, each and every single person, he has his own opinions, he has his own thoughts, and each person differs from the other when it comes to making choices. When it comes to saying what is good and what is bad. Like for example, if you go with your sister to buy clothes, it's possible that you like a particular shirt and she says, no way, how can you ever wear this? It's impossible, you cannot even wear this. So each and every person differs when it comes to choices. And if this matter was left to human beings, that they decide what good is and what evil is, what right is and what wrong is, then people would never ever come to a conclusion. Because even today, what do people say? Everything is good. Everything is right. Don't say anything is wrong. Don't say anyone is bad. Everything is okay as long as you can argue it out. Isn't it so? That's what people say. But should things be left like this? Shouldn't we know what right behavior is and what wrong behavior is? What is it that's going to lead us to success? And what is it that's going to lead us to failure? Shouldn't this be established? Now who decides that? Allah decides that. Because Allah is the one who has created us. So this Qur'an is mubin because it clarifies what truth is, what falsehood is, what good is, what bad is, what right is, what wrong is. Allah tells us, this Qur'an tells us, and no one else can tell us about this. Because if you ask people, they will differ. If you ask people, they base it on their desires, on their biases. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His knowledge is complete. And thirdly, Al-Kitab al-Mubin, what does it mean? The kitab that is based on evidence. It is unique. It is based on evidence. Every statement that is in the Qur'an, it is authentic. It is factually correct. There is no error in the Qur'an. When it comes to narratives, when it comes to history, when it comes to sciences, when it comes to the signs that are mentioned in the Qur'an, all of them are factual. All of them are authentic. There is nothing that is incorrect in the Qur'an. Why is this said right at the beginning of the surah? Because the story of Yusuf a.s. is going to be mentioned. And generally when you're hearing a story, especially if it's of the past, what do you think? What do you think? Perhaps they missed out on a detail. Perhaps they don't have the facts right. But what does Allah tell us? That this is the correct account. This is the real event that happened. This is the real story. You may hear of other versions, but what Allah is telling you is based on His knowledge. So these ayat that you're about to read, they're of the book that is mubin, that is clear. Inna anzalnahu. Indeed, we have revealed it. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed this Qur'an, and He has revealed this Qur'an as what? As a Qur'anan Arabiyan, as an Arabic Qur'an. We have revealed it as an Arabic Qur'an. So this Qur'an is mubin because first of all, Allah has revealed it. It's not the word of a human being. Other speeches, ideologies, concepts are of who? People. They are the production of who? People's minds. But this is the speech of Allah. And this is why it is clear and expressive. That inna anzalnahu. And secondly, it is mubin because it is Qur'anan Arabiyan. It is an Arabic Qur'an. The word Qur'an, we learned about the meaning of Qur'an earlier on in the course. And as I mentioned to you, that Qur'an is from the root letters Qaf, Ra, Hamza. And there are other opinions as well that it's from the root letters Qaf, Ra, Noon. And others say that there is no root for it. If you just keep the meaning limited to the first opinion, that is from the root letters Qaf, Ra, Hamza, for now, that Qar'un, what does Qar' mean? To gather together, to collect. ثلاثة قروء. Qar' literally means to gather together. So the Quran is called Quran. Why? Because in it, the huruf are collected. The words are collected. Sentences, chapters, ayat, all of them are collected together. If you look at it, at the beginning we learned Alif, Lam, Ra. But you don't read the Quran like that. You don't read it as Alif, Lam, Ra, Ta, Lam, Kaf. No. You join the words, you collect the words. You connect them and you read them together, joining them all. Secondly, Qar. To join together, first of all, the Quran is called Quran because huruf are gathered together. Secondly, it is called Quran. Why? Because all of the main messages and themes that were given in the previous scriptures, they are joined together where? They are collected where? In the Quran. All of the major, important themes, commands that were given in the previous scriptures, they're all gathered together in the Quran. Thirdly, it is also called Quran because all of the major fields of study, all of the major sciences of this world, somewhere or the other, you find them mentioned in the Quran. Somewhere or the other, you find them rooted in the Quran. So the Quran, it gathers in itself all of the different various fields of study. If you look at it, from biology to environmental science, to health, hygiene, what else? Business management, personal growth, what else? Leadership, law, governance, ethics, business. All of these things are mentioned in the Quran. Astronomy, science, history, so much analysis, so much is mentioned in the Quran. So all of the various fields of study, you find them gathered together in the Quran. And it's also called Quran because all that is necessary for the human beings to know, everything that is important for the human beings to know, for their success, for their salvation, where do you find it gathered together? In the Quran. In the Quran you find it. Which is why one of the predecessors of the past, he said that if you wish to learn knowledge, if you wish to gain knowledge, then study the Quran. Because in the Quran you will find everything. It will answer all your questions. It will open up your mind. It will really give you knowledge. Then it's also said that the word Quran is from the word qira'ah. Same root, qaf, ra, hamza, but the word qira'ah. And what does qira'ah mean? Recitation. So the Quran is called Quran. Why? Because it is supposed to be recited. The objective is what? That we recite the Quran. Not that we keep it in our bookshelf. Not that we only memorize the word to word and we read the translation. No. Or that we just study tajweed theory. No. The objective of sending this Quran is that we recite it. The Quran is supposed to be recited. When? In the salah, outside of salah, early morning, in the hours of the night, during the day. This is the objective of the Quran. Because you see, Quran literally means the recitation, recital. And the recitation, recital, what is this? A masdar. It's a main noun. And what's the objective of calling something by the main noun? To show that this action is very important, or this action is done repeatedly. It must be done again and again. Like for example, if you say about someone that she's a pain, what does it mean by that? That she causes a lot of pain. It doesn't mean that she herself is pain. What does it mean? She causes a lot of pain repeatedly, over and over again, to everyone. So when Quran is called Quran, what does it mean? It is supposed to be recited and read over and over again. Not just once, not just twice, not just in the word to word, but it is supposed to be read. Not just in tajweed class, not just a little bit in salah, but it's supposed to be read again and again throughout life. This is what Quran means. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have revealed the Quran in what language? Arabiyyan, in the Arabic language. Some language had to be chosen. Isn't it so? To communicate the Quran to human beings. But Allah selected the Arabic language. And there must be a reason behind that. It could have been some other language that was existent at that time. Perhaps at a later stage it could have been Latin. It could have been some other language, but Allah selected which language? The Arabic language. Why? Because the word Arabi comes from the root letters Ain, Ra, Ba. And Arabi literally means the one who is fasih, the one who is very expressive, very clear, very eloquent. This is what the word Arabi literally means. And it's the opposite of Ajam. Arabi is who? An Arabic person. A person who speaks the Arabic language. An Ajami is who? Foreigner. One who does not speak Arabic. A non-Arab. And literally Ajam means a person who is dumb. A person who is unable to speak. A person who is unable to express himself verbally. It is said, أَعْرَبَ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, meaning he expressed himself very clearly and very eloquently. أَعْرَبَ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, he expressed himself very clearly, very eloquently. So the Arabic language, if a person uses the Arabic language, he expresses himself in a way that you will not be able to express yourself using any other language. If you convey the same message in some other language, you will not be able to convey it in the same clarity, in the same eloquence, in the same expression. But if you use the Arabic language, it will be most clear, most eloquent. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Arabic language. Like for example, if you look at it, all other languages, or for example, the language that we know, all of us, for example, English. We use a lot of prepositions, of, and with, etc., etc. But if you look at it in the Arabic language, most of these are understood by what? By the i'rab. Isn't it so? You don't have to put another letter. You don't have to put in, you don't have to put extra words in the middle. So in the most few words, you can express yourself most beautifully, most clearly in the Arabic language. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected the Arabic language. So, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا, we have revealed it as an Arabic Qur'an. What does this show to us? That Qur'an, the actual Qur'an, is the Arabic Qur'an. The translation is not the Qur'an. The translation is not the Qur'an. What is the Qur'an? It's the actual Arabic. This is why the Qur'an must be understood in its original language, in Arabic. You cannot understand from the translation. You cannot put the translation in the front and then explain that translation. No, it will not do justice. The actual Qur'an is in Arabic. This is why our emphasis over here in this course is on the word to word, on the root letters, on the singulars and the plurals, on the analysis of the words. Because if you don't understand them, then you will not understand the Qur'an itself. So we have chosen the Arabic language, we have revealed it as an Arabic Qur'an, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so that you can understand. Meaning if any other language was used, you would not be able to understand. Because the first people to whom the Qur'an was given were who? The Arabs. And if the Qur'an was in any other language, they would not be able to understand. And secondly, Allah chose the Arabic language because it expresses in a way that you better understand things. You better understand things. Now you might say, but I don't speak Arabic. I find it so difficult. But tell me, once you understand the text in Arabic, doesn't it make much more sense to you? Isn't it more beautiful? Doesn't it contain more meaning? Isn't it more effective? Just imagine praying the salah without reciting the Qur'an, saying the translation. Would it mean the same thing? No. Just imagine making a dua, for example, masnoon dua, the meaning of which you understand in Arabic, and saying the same thing in English. Is it the same? Not at all. It's not at all the same. So, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. And ta'qilun is from the root letters Ain, Qaf, Lam. Aqala, ya'qilu. And what does it mean literally? To tie something. Like for example, that hadith, اعقل وتوكل. When that man, he came without tying his camel, what was he told? اعقل, go and tie your camel first. So aqala literally means to tie, to connect. And from this, aqal is also used for intellect, reason, comprehension. Because when a person understands something, what is he doing in reality? He's connecting the dots together. He's making connections. The meaning is tied in the heart and the mind. It stays over there. So, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ.